What's up, you guys? We're talking UFC 322, which in my opinion is the most stacked event that we're going to see take place in the 2025 calendar year. This is it for me. This is numero uno. I absolutely love this event. And what really did it for me, putting this at number one, and you guys comment below and let me know if you agree or if you don't. But what did it for me was the depth of the prelims. Okay, I can sit here and rave about the main card. You already know I cannot wait to see what a fight between Islam Makhachev and JDM is going to look like as Makhachev goes up in weight, right? That fight, you got to be amped for that. And we could talk about every single fight on the main card, but you take a look at the prelims, you have these young phenoms that are getting a huge opportunity on a big stage like this to continue to build on the recent and early success that they've had inside the UFC. Fighters like Wellmaker, Susurkaev, who has looked phenomenal. We haven't seen much from him, but we know that he is moving differently in there. I like Cody Haddon as well. You know, I mentioned Wellmaker. I love the matchup between him and Cody Haddon there. Fatima Kline is a fighter that you definitely have to get familiar with. She's the future of women's mixed martial arts. You have Nickal looking to get redemption after falling flat in his last fight, taking his first ever professional loss as a mixed martial artist. I mean, that's a fight that you have to be anticipating, whether you're a supporter or a hater. That's a fight that you're going to want to be tuned in for. Besides that, you got Kopylov and Gregory Rodrigues on the prelims. I mean, that's crazy. Erin Blanchfield versus Tracy Cortez. The prelims are absolutely ridiculous. And then you bump back up to the main card. Forget about just the main event. The co-main event between Valentina Shevchenko and Weili Zhang. You're talking about two of the top three fighters to have ever done it in women's mixed martial arts. Okay, you're talking about two fighters that are on the Mount Rushmore. And what makes it exciting too is Zhang is going up in weight. You got to be intrigued about these elite fighters going up in weight. It's going to be fun to watch both of those top two bouts. They're right there with Amanda Nunes. They're probably right behind them, depending on how you have your all-time women rankings. But we're going to be watching legends square off there. Then you take a look at the three other bouts. The one that really stands out to me is Sean Brady versus Michael Morales, which has major implications for the future of the welterweight division. Think about this. Ian Gary takes on Belal Muhammad towards the end of this month. It's Gary and Brady that are racing for that next title shot, and they have been for some time. We'll see who's going to put a bigger stamp on claiming that next shot. And you know, Brady's going to have to go out there and really perform, not just get his hand raised. And what a task he has in front of him, because Morales is just he's elite. He's so well-rounded. He's so dangerous, and he's young too. So, and then Carlos Pratis and Leon Edwards is another fight that you would never miss, right? You would be glued to the TV anytime that fight's taking place on any card. Don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel as we jump in to the first fight. Let's get it, boys. So we're going to kick this thing off in the middleweight division with Kyle Daukaus taking on Gerald Meerschaert. And what I think's going on with Kyle Daukaus right now is a complete resurgence. It's very reminiscent to what we just saw Yusuf Zalal do, where he got cut from the UFC, went over to the respected regional scene, had a lot of success, came back to the UFC, and looked to be a revamped version of himself. Now, I know Daukaus has only been back for one fight where he went out there and made quick work of Michel Pereira, and Pereira has looked a little suspect as of recent, but I am buying in to Daukaus' recent success because it's more than just a successful UFC return against Pereira. There's more to the story with Daukaus. First off, he's a fighter that I thought had a lot of potential back in the day, and he definitely fell flat at times. But I've always had a great respect for his game. I mean, he's a nasty jiu-jitsu player. He's very long-limbed. He has a great frame for the division, and we've seen as of recently, he's coming into these fights in phenomenal shape. You look at the work that he was doing over in Cage Fury, which don't mind this grappling L to Eric Anders, okay? Since he took the knockout loss to Anders, which was back-to-back losses where it was the chin that was letting him down, which is an important note. Of course, we all know why. I don't even need to hold you up on that. It's because Meerschaert's striking is nothing to be concerned with, okay? So we don't have to worry about the chin giving out. But since those two losses, right, he's looked phenomenal over in Cage Fury. He's been pretty much finishing every single fight that he's been in. I think he had one decision bout, but besides that, he is just running through these fighters, and you take note of the shape that he's in, okay? This is a fighter that is still very motivated. He's 32 years old. He's in his prime, and most importantly, this is a layup matchup for him. I have a great deal of respect for GM3. And I know that he has constantly came in as an underdog and has upset the party. We know he's one of the greatest submission artists that, not even just for the division, really, he's one of the greatest submission artists that the UFC has ever seen when you take a look at the numbers. But he's 37 years old right now, and you take a look at the performance that he just had against Oleksiejczuk, it was very alarming. Okay, I think that this is a fighter that is compromised. I do. I think that the game has caught up to him. He is lethargic out there. This is a fighter that has 57 professional fights, and he's 37 years old. And Daukaus, he's 32. He's in his prime. He just has 21 professional fights. He has so much more going for himself right now. And stylistically, he has the anti-grappling. That's the thing. Daukaus has high-level jiu-jitsu, so he's less likely to let GM3 expose him there. And then on the feet, Daukaus is going to be moving so much faster and quicker. The Daukaus brothers, both of them have nasty boxing. I think he's gonna hurt GM3 and he's gonna find a finish. I think he's gonna TKO GM3 in this bout. I'm calling a finish. I'm calling an earlier finish as well. I like the under 1.5 here. But you take a look at the takedown defensive ratio for Daukaus. It's at 82%. This is not a bad fighter, I'm telling you guys. All right, now we'll see as he looks to make this second run in the UFC how far he goes, and there's certain matchups that will be a lot more dangerous to him. But this is not it. Okay, this is not it. So I want to be clear because I've seen people online saying anytime they see GM3 and about as a dog, being a dog like this, they're going to take the value on him. But I'm going to warn you guys. I disagree. I'm on the other side. I say keep your money in your pocket, and if you want to have money on this fight, you're looking more at Daukaus to get the job done inside the distance. And I'm going to say that he gets that TKO stoppage in the first half of the fight. Daukaus opened up as a minus 280, and we're looking at him as a minus 350 right now. And that makes complete sense to me. I wouldn't be surprised if Daukaus enters the octagon somewhere up in the minus 400 range. Out with the old, in with the new. We have a changing of the guard type of match here between Fatima Kline and Angela Hill. I love the matchmaking that was done here. Angela Hill is about to be 41 years old. We've been talking about her potentially starting to decline due to age for years, and she still consistently shows up and looks as good as ever. Okay, every one of her bouts are pretty much competitive, win or lose. We know she brings a lot to the table, but on the other hand, you got this young fighter, Fatima Kline, that's really starting to live up to the potential that we all thought that she had coming into her UFC debut, right? She was a doubleweight champ over at CFFC. She came in to the octagon and faced off against Jasmine Justadavicius, which that fight took place up in the flyweight division. I had her winning that fight, right? I picked her to win that fight. She did come up short. We saw that size was a major factor, but you also take into consideration that she's a young fighter and she's growing right in front of her eyes. And even in that loss, when she was able to keep the fight standing, she did show some flashes with her striking. She most certainly just showed some flashes in her striking in her last bout against Melissa Martinez, which you guys all need to go pull up the tape on that fight. Go rewatch the highlight reel. Head kick KO. It was beautiful. She hit Melissa with this little step in right jab before she hit her with the head kick. It was a beautiful knockout to watch. And you have to understand that Fatima Kline is showing a lot of capabilities with her striking, but she's also very sharp with her jiu-jitsu and fighting in her natural weight class in the strawweight division. She is a major threat. She is a major threat. This is a girl that has the potential to be a champion down the line. And stylistically, she's a very bad matchup for Angela Hill because she could hang with Angela Hill on the feet. We know that's where Hill really thrives. But I think that Kline should be able to get this fight down to the mat, where we have also seen that Kline can take advantage of you there, which she did in the bout before Martinez, which she had a lot of success raining down damage on Dudakova down in the mat. And if you pull up her regional tape too, I mean, she has had success down in the mat. This is not just a striker. Kline is a well-rounded mixed martial artist. All right. And you take a look at Hill's last bout against Lucindo. We saw another bout from her where the takedown defense kind of lets her down. She was taken down 3 times, controlled for over 5 minutes. And I could see Kline replicating some of that. But even if she's not able to get the takedowns, I still would put the striking of Kline's above Hill's, right? Maybe if you were to say a prime Angela Hill versus Kline just a year or two ago, well, she's a little bit more green, it would be more competitive. But right now with Kline on the upswing and Hill on the downswing, I think that this is a recipe where Kline is just ahead everywhere this fight goes. And I think that this could start to be the beginning of the demise of Hill when you take a look at her age. But then again, I mean, how can we count her out? It's really going to matter what the UFC does with her as far as matchmaking goes. But if they start to give her these consistent, competitive, high-level bouts, I do think that the age could start to catch up with her. But we know what Hill brings to the table. And just to play devil's advocate, where she could come in here and try to spoil the party, is if she can use her footwork to create that distance and make this a kickboxing match that plays out closely. And she sneaks off a split decision, which we've seen Hill involved in many split decisions. Typically, they don't go her way, right? The big notable matches that went to split decisions with her have not gone her way. But, I mean, if you're coughing up minus 450, 430 on Kline here, and it plays out in that type of fashion, you're going to be stressed out. I'm going to lean more towards the way of Kline going in here and I don't want to say laying the smackdown, but coming in and showing up and convincingly winning 2 of the 3 rounds at the very least, if not all 3. So I'm not on the side of this fight playing out closely like that, like a lot of Hill's fights have played out. I'm in on Kline, and I say that Kline wins a unanimous decision. Or should you cough up minus 450 on Kline here? I'm not sitting here jumping out of my seat looking at this line. I'm not at all. I would definitely want more of a bargain here, but I do want to be clear. I'm in on the Kline hype. What's funny about this bout, and I don't know if all of you guys will be in agreement, but you could say that this is the most least anticipated bout of the event, right? A featherweight match between Chepe Mariscal and Pat Sabatini. And let me be clear, this is still a fight that I can't wait to see. This is a rematch. If you guys didn't know, they fought on the regional scene, I believe, like back in 2018. It went to a split decision. Mariscal got his hand raised. Since then, both of these fighters have grown quite a bit, specifically inside the octagon. Chepe is still undefeated inside the UFC. He's 5-0. He's looked really good. He's coming off dominating performance over Ricardo Ramos, where he really pushed the pace on him. He outstruck him 125-37. And, you know, to cut to the chase here, the recipe for Chepe to win this fight is to stuff the takedowns. And we know he has a solid judo base. He's a very well-rounded fighter. I think that his hips have to hold up. He has to keep this fight standing where he is the superior striker. We have seen some growth from Sabatini at moments, but even when you look to some of those moments where you've seen his striking look a little bit more dangerous offensively, like the Diego Lopez fight early on, he had a nice little explosive hook that he landed. Moments later, he's knocked out on the feet by Lopez there, where he eventually goes down to the mat and gets smashed down there. But besides that, we saw what Damon Jackson did to him in the first round. I think that defensively, he is suspect. And I think that it is possible that Chepe can get him out of there. Because I think on an off night, Sabatini can be knocked out by many in this division. But when things are going good for him and he closes the distance, his grappling's elite. It really is. His grappling is very elite. He has a nasty back take. He can sit there and have that body triangle wrapped around you. Just he could backpack you for 15 minutes if you let him. I just don't think that Chepe is going to let him. I don't. I think that he'll make this fight play out in a more grueling fashion, where he'll eventually even get Sabatini off of him, and then the fight will once again play out on the feet. I think that he'll have moments to land damage. And as the fight goes to the judges' scorecards, as long as he's not just completely blanketed, I think that he's the fighter that's landing a little bit more damage and can win a decision there. I think there's potential for the knockout, like I said. And all in all, I feel more comfortable backing Chepe here, who I always like watching him. I think that he's a solid fighter. I like Sabatini as well, and Sabatini has came through for me quite a bit through the years as an underdog at that. But stylistically, he needs to be able to take advantage of your grappling deficiencies. And I will say this, he has even done it against fighters that have had success stuffing takedowns, and they're not really one-dimensional fighters. He still has gone out there and imposed his will, so it is possible he could do that. He's coming in off a dominating performance over Brito, where he controlled Brito for almost 15 minutes in a three-round fight. It was pretty crazy what he did. He had a bunch of 30 to 26 scorecards going on there. He had 2 of them. I mean, so he's coming in off of a very dominating performance, and he's very active in the grappling world. That's what he brings to the table. But I say that Chepe defends. In the UFC, he has posted a 73% takedown defensive ratio. He's the more active striker. That's how I see this fight playing out. You guys comment below. Let me know if you agree with me on this one. This is a close fight, and the line does reflect that. As you're looking at essentially pick-em odds, we're seeing a very slight lean towards Mariscal's way. I say he wins this fight. I'm going to say he wins a decision, but I still have questions about Sabatini's defense, and I do think it's possible he gets KO'd here. I do. He's been knocked out in 3 of his 5 losses. Chepe has 7 knockout victories out of his 18 victories. It's not like he's a notorious finishing artist. You take a look at the work that he's doing inside the UFC. He is mostly, in fact, he's really always going to a decision, because the only finish that he has was due to the injury that happened on Jack Jenkins as he was posting, if I remember, his shoulder dislocated. So, I mean, he's really been getting decisions in there, but the knockout is still live. But I say he does get another decision. I'm calling a decision victory for Mariscal here. In the middleweight division, Roman Kopylov takes on RoboCop Gregory Rodrigues, and both of these fighters come into this match on a completely different note. Kopylov just had an extremely disappointing performance against Paulo Costa. Not to say that we completely overlook what Costa brings to the table, but by no means should you be being outstruck 102 to 48 or whatever the exact numbers were. But Kopylov was completely outstruck in that match, and it was very disappointing to say the least. Meanwhile, Rodrigues just had a phenomenal bounce back victory where he went out there and knocked out Jack Hermanson. That was coming in, or he went into that fight coming in off of the Jared Cannonier loss, which he still had a lot of success in that bout before he started to gas a little bit and feel the power of the very dangerous Cannonier. So you take that one for what you will. If this fight does go to a decision, I'm feeling pretty comfortable that it goes Rodrigues' way. That's kind of how I'm looking at it after just diving into some of the recent tape of both of these fighters. Now, if you take a look at the numbers, it's pretty even, right? You look at Kopylov in fights that have gone to a decision, he is 2-2, right? He has a 500 record, while Rodrigues is 3-2. I mean, not much of a difference there, but when I'm watching the recent performances that they've had, I think Rodrigues, especially in a 3-round fight, is going to be a step ahead of Kopylov. Kopylov is very dangerous, though. You take a look, out of his 14 victories, 12 of them come by way of KO. And we have seen that Rodrigues is most definitely vulnerable to being knocked out. We already brought up the Cannonier loss, but besides that, I mean, it dates back to his Dana White's Contender Series debut, where he was knocked out by a welterweight fighter in Jordan Williams. He got overly confident. He's very aggressive, as he always is. He's aggressive. He marches forward, and he ran into some strikes there. We saw Bruno Ferreira be able to capitalize on that as well, which Bruno, he's not a bad fighter, but that's a fighter you really shouldn't be taking an L in there too, especially if you have a proper game plan. If you're fighting with a high fight IQ, that's a fight that Rodrigues should have taken. And at times he gets a little too overly aggressive, and he gives these fighters that are maybe a step below him an opportunity to take him out, and the chin is questionable. So he's been KO'd quite a bit. And if you go back even before the Jordan Williams fight, he was knocked out by Bruno Lopez, who is a familiar fighter to us. That was his professional MMA debut way back in the day. So I definitely believe that Kopylov is live to land a KO here. Okay, let's take a look back real quick before the Costa fight. I mean, this dude's going out there. What he did to Chris Curtis, which is seconds to go in that fight. And that fight was competitive, though, right? But at the very end, he gets the knockout there. The Josh Fremd KO, the Claudio Ribeiro KO, the Punahele Seriano knockout, which has aged pretty well, even though Seriano is a much different fighter in the welterweight division. That's still a solid victory there. Alessio De Chirico, he had a knockout over him in the 3rd round. Now, what are we gathering as we're going through this list? Besides the Seriano victory, not a lot of big names, right? There's no fighters of the caliber of a Gregory Rodrigues. So take that into consideration. You look at the Cesar Almeida victory that he recently had, which was on a big stage at UFC 302. Okay, so he's recently been in the octagon on a big stage. That was a fight that played out very competitively. Some people thought that Almeida won the fight. It was a split decision victory for Kopylov. And I would say that there was moments in that fight where he looked a little off. And I feel more comfortable backing Rodrigues here, the longtime Team Kill Cliff FC fighter. I like who he surrounds himself with. And if he fights an intelligent match here, this is his fight to win. He just needs to be technically sound, specific defensively. He needs to be defensively sound, and I think that this is his fight to win. And he's also very live to land his own knockout. I mean, the power, it's ridiculous. So I know Kopylov does have a granite chin, but I still do say that Rodrigues is live to land a KO. He has 10 knockouts out of his 17 victories. He's coming off that big knockout. And Kopylov has never been finished, but I still do say Rodrigues is live. But my official pick will be Rodrigues to win via decision. And one quick note, it's kind of funny too, right? Rodrigues is only 33 years old. So technically he's still on the upswing. Kopylov is 34. I find that funny when you take a look at both of their faces. Kopylov looks younger. He has that baby face. Rodrigues looks like he could be 38 years old with the way he's looking. So that's interesting. And note that Gregory is coming into this fight in phenomenal shape. You take a look at his Instagram. This dude, I mean, he's always ripped. He's always jacked, but he's coming into this fight in peak shape. So that could play a pivotal role as well, and especially in a 3-round fight. You take a look at the odds here. Gerald opens up as a -155, and he is currently right around a -185. I'm actually in agreement with this line movement, but I would halt it right up to that point. Anything over -185, I do think it's a little bit of a stretch. You're not getting any value there. Obviously, you wanted to be on this line earlier. You still have to respect the danger that Kopylov brings to the table, mixed with the durability issues of Rodrigues. But I think you could maybe find some value on Rodrigues to win a decision here. Take a look into that. For those of you guys that have been locked into the show for some time, you guys do know that I am a Bo Nickal fan. I do root him on, and I do wish for him to have success inside the octagon. Now, that's not going to stop me from shooting it straight here, especially as we get over to the betting odds. And the reason why I gravitated to Bo Nickal is I feel that, first off, the United States is being underrepresented in the UFC, specifically at the top level. And we all know this. I mean, you don't see a lot of UFC champions representing the States these days. And I wanted, and I still want to see Bo Nickal have a lot of success in the UFC. Therefore, I think that we'll start to see many more elite American wrestlers come into the sport. And I just think that it would be great as a whole for MMA and for the UFC. Also, with me being American, this shouldn't really surprise you, right? Because, any other fan, whatever country they represent. I mean, I have fans of the show, friends of the show that live all across the globe, small countries like Belgium. I mean, you name it, right? And they root on all of the young fighters that are working their way into the UFC, as to be expected. And I think that Americans should do the same thing. So that's really the reason why I gravitated to Bo Nickal. I also... I'm a huge fan of prodigies and fighters that do elite things. I love watching greatness, and that's all we were seeing from Nickal. I would say leading up to the Craig fight, that's where things took a turn. But when you take into consideration the wrestling success that he's had and the early mixed martial arts success that he had, I mean, this dude was doing prodigy type stuff. Okay, you don't see a lot of fighters that come in with the wrestling background that he had come in and start to display such rapid growth in other aspects of the sport. That's what really put me on to him, is the way that he was floating to his back and just slapping on triangles, the jiu-jitsu growth that he showed, some of the power in his hands, the boxing skills. Now, I know the boxing skills weren't super refined, but to show all those flashes and then have that wrestling in your back pocket, I was really feeling that this is a fighter that could have made a quick trip to fighting for gold. And I was wrong on that, okay? Because now we've seen with time that he's just not really there. He's not on that elite level. He's only 29. There's time for improvement, but he's not there right now. And excuse the error here. Of course, he had the close victory over Paul Craig. And then after that fight, which is not displaying, he did take the loss to RDR, which RDR is a very high-level fighter, even though we just saw him quit in there once again. But you take all things into consideration. That's a tough outing. But Nickal, he got exposed in that fight. And I do think that when you bring the fight to Nickal and you give him adversity in there, he's going to struggle until he starts to get that experience and he starts to feel more comfortable there. He doesn't have that experience getting beaten up in a real fight, even in a wrestling match, right? I mean, he's hardly ever taken a loss wrestling. He doesn't really know what it's like to go through that type of adversity. I assume that on the mats and his his sparring and his grappling. This is a guy that pretty much dominates, and with time, he needs to learn how to get that warrior spirit and to go through adversity if he's going to take his game to another level. I do believe that Rodolfo Vieira is the type of fighter that can bring that type of fight to him, because we know that Nickal not going to be able to use his wrestling here. Once again, he's not going to be able to resort to his wrestling just to stall out and dominate if things don't go well in the feet. Because if you shoot in on Vieira, it's very likely you're going to get caught in a sub. You're talking about an elite jiu-jitsu player, okay? And then Vieira is a fighter that I've been very impressed with throughout the years. We've seen him take massive strides with his cardio and his striking. And I think that he's a high-level fighter. He's came through for me many a times when I've targeted him with official targets, as he just did against Baisangur. The issue I have with Vieira, though, you take a look at that recent loss against Andre Petroski, which Petroski, you could say that his striking is a little bit more proven than Bo's. We've seen a little bit more from it, but you could also argue that Bo is a better version of Petroski. We know the wrestling and the takedown defense is going to be better than Petroski's, and you don't think that Bo can replicate a lot of what Petroski did there, kind of outpointing Vieira on the feet. I do think that it's possible and it's likely to happen. You might see Bo fight a safe fight, pumping the jab and just kind of outpointing Vieira. But even there, don't completely overlook Vieira, because the striking has evolved. It's looked very good as of recently. Even as Vieira is up in age, I mean, we see the growth continuing from one fight to the next. He looked much better against Gore compared to what he looked like against Petroski. And really, we started to see that development with the striking in the Chris Curtis bout. I mean, he was on the feet. He was hanging on the feet with Chris Curtis, so he could easily hang in this fight on the feet. And who knows, maybe he even gets the better of Nickal on the feet. Maybe he's just completely the better mixed martial artist here. That's kind of how I'm looking at this fight. I really have it as a toss-up. Now, I'm going to side with Bo to get the job done. I'm going to say that he wins a very close decision, and it could even be like a controversial type decision on a big stage here. I'm going to say that Bo wins. I'm going to say he wins via decision by stuffing takedowns and just slightly outpointing Vieira with his striking. And I'm also going to put some faith into us seeing some strides take place in Nickal's game. With him being 29 years old, coming off that very frustrating loss, I think that he went back to the drawing board and has put in more work than he ever has in 6 months. So I expect to see a better version of himself, and I think that he could squeak out a decision here. But you take a look at the money line here. He's a minus 220. I wouldn't be backing him, right? The days of looking at Bo as a minus 800, 900, 600, minus 1,400, all that, those days are long behind us, and I think that the value is on Vieira here. I truly do. I think that the value is on Vieira, which you can get him as high as a plus 180. I'm rooting for Bo. I'm a big fan. I think that this fight should be more like a 50-50 type of fight. That's kind of how I'm looking at it, if I'm being honest with you guys. We're hot right now. Things have been heating up leading up to UFC 322. Do not hesitate to reach out to me if you're interested in my official targets for this card, which this event is without a doubt going to be one of the biggest events for me of this year. Okay, we're going to have a huge slate. Reach out to me if you're interested in tailing my targets. I got a couple different options for you guys. Two big-time prospects square off in the bantamweight division here. We have the machine, Malcolm Wellmaker, taking out Cody, Haddon, and I love this matchup. Okay, I love the fact that the UFC is throwing these two younger fighters, if you will, in there early on, and we get to see who comes out on top. And the reason why I kind of hesitate saying younger fighters, that's not exactly the best term, because Wellmaker is creeping up on 32, but we understand that he got into the fight game a little later, right? These fighters have so many similarities when you take a look at the amount of pro fights they have, when you take a look at when they had their first amateur bouts, how many amateur fights they've had. You take a look at the success they had as a whole. It's very similar. They both recently had finishes on DWCS where they were signed, and they've had success in the octagon since joining the UFC. So, I mean, this is an awesome fight. And these are two fighters that typically like to display their striking. And in Malcolm's case, he consistently shows that he has devastating power in his hands, specifically with that right hook, right? All three of his UFC banner victories dating back to the DWCS bout ended by way of that right hook, which it's lightning fast. And he's hit it in different types of ways too, right? We've seen him kind of throw it out there as a counter. We've seen him kind of step into the right hook in a nasty way, like what he did to Chris Montigno. And he has shown this power even long before working with the UFC. If you pull up his regional tape, you go pull up a couple bouts on YouTube, and he's gone out there early on in his pro career and has landed these KOs. It's something that he naturally has. And on the right night, I mean, he pretty much can put anybody out in this division. If he lands that strike, it's going to hurt almost everybody in this division. So, yeah, I do feel that he's alive to land a knockout here over Haddon, who has never been finished. So thus far has never been KO'd early on in his pro career. I still think that Malcolm is alive to land that KO. With that all being said, because I know I'm sitting over here just raving about what Wellmaker's been doing, you have to understand that Haddon is a clear step up in competition compared to anybody that Wellmaker has been inside of a cage with. Okay, specifically Chris Montigno, which was his last victory, the walking punching bag. The only real victory that I give merit to is the Cameron Saymon victory, which he had in the first round, which we've seen him have some success, and he's a tricky striker. He's shown some skills to us, but even then, I have Haddon a step above him. In fact, I'm very high on what I'm seeing from Haddon, and when you understand that he's just 27 years old, this is a fighter, win or lose in this spot. I think that we're going to see him go on to have a lot of success in this division. I truly believe that's the case. I love the offensive boxing skills that he possesses. If you go on YouTube, I saw one really cool video where somebody kind of put a highlight reel together of some of the high caliber tactics that he imposes offensively. He sets these strikes up in a nasty way. And as young as he is, and he's already doing that, I mean, he's going to be a threat to outstrike Wellmaker. If Wellmaker doesn't put him out with that one big strike, Haddon will be live to outvolume him and outpoint him. And I've seen a lot of people talking about the possibility of Haddon kind of exposing Wellmaker. Some people believe that's the case. Some people believe that Wellmaker is a little one-dimensional and he relies on that power strike. He doesn't have a full bag of tools. And, you know, I'll tell you this. The more I was diving into the tape, I don't actually think that's the case. I think that, yeah, Malcolm has that big power that he could rely on at times. But if you pull up some of his tape dating back to when he was brand new to fighting pro, I mean, fighting years ago, before he even had this this recent success in the octagon, he's actually moving pretty well in there. Right? He's very defensively sound. He's a solid athlete. He knows how to judge distance very well. He's not easy to hit. And I think that people are kind of underestimating him, thinking that he just lunges in and hits this big power hook. It's not really the case. He does mix things up, and he'll throw some nasty kicks offensively as well. And I think you're going to see him take major strides in his game right now. I mean, both of these fighters are going to take major strides forward. And I think that Wellmaker is a more well-rounded fighter than he's getting credit for here. Haddon has shown to be very well-rounded as well. You think about the victory that he had at DWCS against Billy Brand. He pulled off the submission, but remember, he hurt him first. But then he showed that he knows what he's doing on the mat. And more impressively was the victory that he just had against Dan Argueta, who is a tough veteran, the former Ultimate Fighter, who has a good wrestling background. And we finally saw Haddon go the distance, and we saw that he looked very well doing it. He had no problem with a grueling pace going 15 minutes. So we've seen that from him. While on the other hand, we haven't seen Wellmaker involved in that type of fight, at least on the UFC stage, right? He's gone the distance before on the regional scene. He's gone the distance 2 times before, but we just saw Haddon do it against a more high-level opponent, all right? Now, to my pick here, because I could sit here and talk about this fight all day. I'm going to side with Wellmaker, and a couple things that stand out to me is I like the size advantage that Wellmaker has in this spot here, and I think that Wellmaker is going to land the heavier strikes in this fight. If he doesn't land that KO, which we have that in our back pocket as well, I still think he can land some very damaging strikes that can edge him some rounds. So I'm going to side with him. This is a great fight. I want to make it clear I have a lot of respect for Haddon, and I think that he is very live to go out here and get the job done as well. There's not a lot of confidence on the Wellmaker pick. This fight I was actually quite back and forth with, but I do feel confident in settling in with Malcolm Wellmaker. So check this out. As we go over to dissect the betting odds for this bout, there's just 2 fights that I don't have odds for, and we've been having fun with this. In fact, if you guys have been paying attention, the 2 fights that I guessed where the odds would open up at, was the Daniel Marcos fight and then the Timmy Kawamba fight, I believe it was. We didn't have odds on those fights over the last couple of weeks, right? For some reason, some of these fights, some of them get matched up more last minute, which is an important note to bring up as well, because I should have mentioned Malcolm was supposed to be taking on Siri Sidi, who pulled out of this fight. So that's another factor. Cody Haddon takes this fight on short notice here, but we don't have odds for this fight. And I'm going to try to guess the odds here once again, which I was very, very accurate for Daniel Marcos and Timmy Kawamba. And I'm going to say that Wellmaker is, when I say open up, close, in that range, I'm going to say he opens up being a minus 170 favorite. Now, this one, I'm really interested to see if I'm right here, because people are going to be high on Wellmaker, and I'm interested to see if he opens up as a bigger favorite, or if that line opens up like that, if we start to see his line get steamed. But I'm thinking that, the betting community will be educated on what Haddon brings to the table, and this line has to be closer than that. So I have this line accurately set, I would say, really with Wellmaker being like a minus 150. Haddon being somewhere around a plus 130, something like that. I mean, he should be a slight underdog here, but this fight, I mean, even then, really deep down, I feel like the fight should be even capped closer, but I'm expecting to see something like that. Maybe we see Wellmaker close as like a minus 170. Let's see if I'm correct there. The next fight that I'm going to break down, I don't have odds for that one, but it's not even going to really matter. Susurkaev is going to be a massive favorite. Let's go jump over to that fight. The 24-year-old Susurkaev makes a return to the octagon to take on Eric McConico. And Susurkaev is coming into this fight off quite the layoff, at least compared to what he's used to. If you guys remember, he had his UFC debut on just 4 days short notice after he had fought on that DWCS Tuesday night against Murtaza Talha, where he had the nasty body kick finish. And then he came in and I don't know if you want to say went to war, but he played around with Eric Nolan and made that fight somewhat entertaining. And as I stated before, this is the only other fight that I don't have betting odds for, and you guys know I'm going to hit this one right on the head. It's definitely going to be up in the minus 1000s. I'll give you my thoughts on the opening odds here in a second, and I'm not going to go long on this segment. I have Susurkaev winning this fight. I think he's going to find the KO. McConico was finished by strikes in all 3 of his losses. I think he's completely outmatched here. I think that Susurkaev is the truth. I love the fact that he surrounds himself with the elite of the elite. We know that he trains and has gotten in work with Khamzat Chimaev, his fellow countryman, but he also trains at Team Kill Cliff FC, where he's getting rounds in with fighters like RDR, Gilbert Burns, and all those guys. And he's been doing it from a very young age. This fighter has future champion written all over him. I think his grappling has shown to be much more advanced than some of us might have thought early on. Some of us may have looked at him like he's a one-dimensional striker. It's not the case. He's going to round his game out to a complete elite level, and it's very likely that he is going to be a top 5, a perennial top 5, top 10 type of fighter that will make a run at the title in this division. And props to McConico for going out there in his last fight and sneaking off a split decision against Cody Brundage. But that's not it. Okay, it's not enough here. And I know Susurkaev doesn't have a lot of big name victories, but if you know what you're watching, we know that McConico is just not going to be on the level. And of course, you don't forget the Rozaboyev loss that he just had before that. I think this fight plays out much more similarly to that one compared to the Brundage fight. And the Brundage fight was an awkward bout, and no shade thrown Brundage's way, but no, it's not. That's not the case here. Okay, guys. Now take a look here as we're gonna guess where this betting line is gonna open up and settle. You take a look at Susurkaev's recent odds. He was a minus 1200 against Eric Nolan in his UFC debut, which Eric Nolan was a very unknown fighter. Susurkaev had a lot of hype behind him as he was making the quick return to the cage after just making that noise on Tuesday night. So there was some buzz behind him that helped that line go all the way up to a minus 1200. I see no reason why the line on this bout shouldn't be something very close to that. All right. I think it's much more likely you see a minus 1200. In fact, I'm going to say he settles in like as around a minus 1400. It might even go higher than that, which would imply like a 93% chance for him to win the fight. I think that's somewhat accurate. I think that he should be a massive favorite here. I'm buying in on the hype here. And the days of catching him around a minus 400 against a fighter like Talha, you're just not going to see that, because now you have to note that although he's fighting a fighter that's a little bit more recognized than McConico, now Susurkaev has a much bigger name after the UFC debut performance, after what he just did again, looking phenomenal in there. And make no mistake, any of the adversity that he went in that fight, he kind of brought it upon himself, as he likes to have fun and play around in there, which it's not going to be a smart move to do that when he's fighting higher level fighters, but he could do that here against McConico and get away with it all day. So I'm going to say he opens up, depending on what book you're looking at, he opens up as like a minus 900, I don't know, minus 1,000, and he goes all the way up to like a minus 1,500. And I think that is probably realistic. He probably is going to win this fight 93% of the time. We got ranked women's flyweight action set to take place between Erin Blanchfield and Tracy Cortez. And let's quickly look at what's going on towards the top of this division, as we'll be talking about Valentina Shevchenko and Weili Zhang in a little bit. Who's going to be fighting for the belt next? Who is next in line after that fight takes place? You take a look at what's going on. Montefiore just bounced back with a huge victory as she knocked out Jasmine after falling short fighting against Shevchenko for the belt. Natalia Silva is looking phenomenal. She's still undefeated inside the UFC. Erin Blanchfield has an opportunity to now go on a 2-fight winning streak since coming up short in that bout against Montefiore, which was a title eliminator. Okay, so she's starting to claw her way back at getting an opportunity to fight for the belt. This is a huge fight for her here. Rose Namajunas just bounced back with the victory after falling short to Erin Blanchfield as she defeated Miranda Maverick. So I don't know how this is going to shake out. It's hard to say if this is a number one contender spot, because Natalia Silva, Montefiore, they're right there as well. But Erin Blanchfield has been looking really good. And these two fighters here have a common opponent in Rose Namajunas. They both were in there with her recently, and their fights both went very differently, right? It was Blanchfield that was, I guess you could say, dominating the wrestling and grappling exchanges. She took her down 2 times, but she controlled her for almost 9 minutes, and she defended 3 of the 4 takedown attempts that Rose threw her way. And those 3 stuffs were pretty damn impressive, as she shrugged one off and then reversed Rose, put her up against the cage, and then she took her down. I mean, the grappling is elite. For whatever reason, she wasn't able to implement that on Manin, but you got to also note that Blanchfield is just 26 years old, and after she took that loss, I think that she's taken her game to another level. I truly believe it. Now, you look at how the fight between Rose and Tracy Cortez went, where Rose Namajunas was 5 of 5 on her takedowns against Tracy, who actually has a wrestling background as well, but her wrestling's not on the same level as these girls. If you want to do some quick like MMA math, I think that it kind of holds true. I think it's like Blanchfield, then Rose, then Tracy, and I think you're going to see Blanchfield be able to implement the grappling here. I think she's going to get on top of Tracy. Also, I think that Blanchfield has shown a lot of development in her hands, and she's able to open up with her striking because her grappling is so elite. And I think that she'll be able to hang with Cortez there as well, to play devil's advocate, where she potentially could run into trouble, where this fight could play out closely, is if Cortez has success stuffing takedowns, and it is a striking affair, and Cortez just slightly edges her on the feet with her boxing skills, or just has it play out just close enough where the judges give her the fight. I'm going to say that's not going to be the case here. I have Blanchfield winning this. I really like what she brings to the table, and I think it's extremely likely that she is going to be the future of this division. When you take into consideration that she's just 26, the thought of her when she is 30 years old, I mean, how is she not going to have the gold strap around her waist? I mean, is it going to be Natalia Silva that's in her way, another young phenom? I mean, those are the 2 fighters that really stand out when you're talking the future of this division. But make no mistake, I like Blanchfield here. I think she's the more hungry fighter. Do you remember this? When her fight fell through with Macy Barber, when Barber couldn't make the walk? I don't know if I loved it, but if that's the right term, but if you guys catch my drift, I like what I'm seeing from her as far as her tenacity goes. Okay, she didn't take her foot off the gas pedal. This girl lives and breathes the fight game. And on the other hand, it's not that Cortez isn't scrappy, but I know that Cortez is making money other types of ways, right? She gets a lot of attention. She's a looker. She's in commercials and all that. And I don't know if her drive is on the same level as a Blanchfield. I think Blanchfield is all in with the fight game, and she wants to be champion, and it's very likely that she will be champion one day. I believe that's the case. So we take a look at the odds here. She opened up as a minus 189. We saw her touch minus 210. Now the line's coming back down to where she's a minus 175. I like the fact that that line is coming down. I like the fact it's shortening up. I want to be on Blanchfield regardless. Now, if she was a minus 210, how do I feel about that line? That line still doesn't necessarily scare me away. It's getting there where it's a little bit of a reach, but this line is it's plenty reachable where it's at right now. And if it comes down and you grab her as like a minus 155, I think that there's some real value there. I like Blanchfield to win this fight via decision. Now, I'm glad I caught myself because I was just about to say I cannot wait for this fight, which I'm sure I said about 6-7 times already on this episode. I just can't help it because that's what comes to mind when I look at a bout like this. Sean Brady's taking on Michael Morales. There's potential that the winner will be fighting for the title next, specifically in Sean Brady's case. Not to say that Michael Morales is completely out of the picture, but he's still a younger fighter that you could say needs to get a couple more victories. It's more between Gary and Brady. But let's say Morales wins this fight and Gary loses to Muhammad. It's not out of the realm that Morales could be next to be fighting for the belt against the winner of the main event. I don't typically do this. In fact, I don't think I've ever done this in a segment, but I'm going to read something from my phone here because I think that it's very important to note going into this match. And what I'm about to read, it's not like shocking news. A lot of you guys already know this about Morales, but I think that it's very important when you're dissecting this matchup here. Okay. All right. Michael Morales, he comes from a martial arts oriented family. His mother and his father practiced judo, which gave him exposure from an early age, which he started training judo at 5 years old. And then around 10 years old, he quit judo because it wasn't his thing. And he dove into the wrestling world where he was very competitive. He started training Olympic style wrestling as a teenager and had a lot of success in that discipline over in Ecuador. And wrestling is a major part of his base and who he is as a mixed martial artist. All right. I want to say that because sometimes we just look at him, we see these freakish traits that he brings into the cage. His striking is nasty, and we kind of forget this is a fighter that knows how to grapple. He knows how to wrestle. You think about what he did on Dana White's Contender Series when he was just a kid, what he did to Nikolai Veretinnikov, just taking him down with ease. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because we know what Brady is going to look to do here. He's going to look to close the distance. He's going to look to leech on him and just smother him and take him down to the mat and just not even leave a centimeter of space between the two of them. He wants to be just glued to Morales. And I think that Morales has shown that that is not easy to do to him. You think about when Magny tried to do it to him. Okay, he's holding him up against the cage. Morales hits him with a spinning back elbow coming off the cage and then follows it up to finish the fight there. You think about the Gilbert Burns fight. Gilbert Burns put his all in to get an early takedown. Morales' butt touched the cage for like a second. He pops right back up against the cage and then goes on to just land these nasty hooks where Burns just knew he was outmatched and eventually he crumbles. I mean, Michael Morales is just 26 years old. I always talk about it. You're going to see a young fighter like this take massive strides forward. He's a nasty fighter. With that being said, though, Sean Brady, he is in his prime right now, and I don't want to completely overlook him. But the more I dive into this fight, I think that Morales is the side you want to be on him. And you circle back to the Belal Muhammad fight that Brady had before he started or kicked back off this winning streak where he's been looking great. That fight was very suspect. I know he talked about how he woke up and he felt like he was going to lose the fight before he ever did. Well, what happens if he wakes up on fight night here and he feels he's going to lose this fight before it ever starts? Do you want to back him here? I mean, I know he's looked very mentally tough as of recently, but I mean, you don't know what you're going to get from him. And when he sees a fighter like Michael Morales across from him at the weigh-ins, I mean, it's likely he's going to feel like he's going to lose this fight because Morales is huge for this weight class. And then, after I want to talk about the Muhammad fight a little bit more, but you talk about what he's done since. I mean, he goes out there, he runs through Gastelum, Burns, and Leon Edwards. It's not like we didn't see Edwards have that just happen to him in the fight prior against Belal Muhammad. So, I mean, Muhammad was able to do that as well. And then Muhammad isn't able to do any of that against Jack Della Maddalena. Just to kind of like understand what's going on here, I think that Morales can defend the grappling enough here to land his damage, and I think he can impose his will and break Brady down, because Brady is a fighter that doesn't like to be threatened and pushed back against. We saw that in the Muhammad fight. Okay, when things don't go his way, he does not like it. And you look at that Muhammad loss, it was his lone loss. He's 18-1. Morales is 18-0. I like Morales here. I think he has the grappling abilities to keep Brady off of him. I think that's how this fight's going to play out. And I think once he keeps him off of him, it's very likely that he finds the finish. 12 of his 18 victories come by way of KO, with one undocumented. That's probably a KO. You guys know I'm always going to chalk up those undocumented towards where the majority of the finishes are coming from, which are via KO. So probably 13 of his 18. He has a sub there as well. And when Brady loses, it's only been once, he gets finished. I think Morales gets him out of there. And, it's a shame. Sean Brady, I was talking to his team, nothing against Sean Brady, because he's a very professional guy that's dedicated to what he's doing, which is making a run at the title. But, his team, they were reaching out to me all the time, and they wanted to do all these things, and they were just kind of unprofessional, and with the way that they with the way they do things. They're very unprofessional. Take my word on that. So it's no shade towards Brady. It's not really him, but the people that he directly surrounds himself with. And that's not why I'm picking against him here. I just genuinely think he's going to lose this fight. And you guys know I'm always high on Joe Pyfer. I like those guys over there, Pyfer and Brady. But the side is Michael Morales, and I think he finds the knockout here. I'm going to say Morales gets the finish in the second round. At 155, BSD takes on Beneil Dariush. This is top 15 ranked action. BSD has the train back on the track. There's no question about that. He's now on a 2-fight winning streak after going through some unfortunate adversity, specifically with the L that he took to Renato Moicano, which was a real rough loss for me, as I had that as an official target. That fight took place midday here in the States, and that's a fight that he wins the vast majority of the time. Unfortunately, that fight had to be stopped due to that eye injury, but it wasn't like it was a fluke. I do hold him. I do throw blame towards his way, because the reason why he lost that fight was he made a mistake. He put himself in a compromised position, and he was too eager to blast out of it, to get out of it quickly. It was a 5-round fight. All he had to do was slow the pace of that fight down. He was definitely going to take it over and get the better of that fight the longer it went. And actually, just as soon as he got back up to his feet, which we even started to see that when he eventually did get back up. But the eye injury was so brutal, the fight was going to be stopped, and he was compromised anyway. But my point is that his talent and the tenacity that he has in the cage, it's very high level. Okay, I don't hold him to the fire for the DP loss. That was another fight where he came in with some things going on behind the scenes, and he looked to push the pace. And Poirier is a Hall of Famer, and that fight played out the way that it did. But there's no real shame in that loss. I believe BSD is a high-level fighter. The thing I love about him is his will. The will that he brings to the cage, it's crazy. We saw that on display way back in the day when he took an L against Zaleski dos Santos, which that fight was, that fight put him on the map, if you want to be honest. If you guys remember that fight, I mean, this guy, he was in there bleeding everywhere. He was still pushing forward. There was some questionable refereeing going on, and he just, that was his UFC debut. And since that L, which wasn't even a real L, I mean, it was, but he showed so much. He went out there and just finished fight after fight, and he is a true fight finisher. Okay, that's what you have to know. You take a look at all of his victories inside the octagon: submission, knockout, submission, knockout, knockout, submission, submission. And I'm going to cut to the chase here. Not only do I have him beating Dariush, I think he's going to find the finish here, because Dariush has shown to be very prone to being finished when he loses fights. Okay, you take a look at, out of the 6 fights that he's lost, all of them come by way of finish. He's been knocked out in 5 of them. He was subbed in 1. If you remember how the Charles Oliveira fight played out recently, he had some success early on getting a takedown. We saw Charles get back up to the feet, hurt him there. And I could see BSD hurting him eventually as this fight progresses. I really can. Now, I will say this. I do have a great deal of respect for what Dariush brings to the table. He's a high-level fighter. We saw him go out there against Renato Moicano in his last bout and fight an intelligent match, and he got the nod. We've seen him go in there and defeat high-level fighters like Mateusz Gamrot, Tony Ferguson, more back in the day. I mean, there's some respectable victories here. Thiago Moises, Drew Dober. I mean, I wouldn't say the resume jumps off the screen, but I do have Dariush being a high-level fighter, but he's 36 years old, and I think that BSD is kind of a stylistic bad matchup for him in the sense that I don't see Dariush just controlling him down on the mat in this fight. I think that BSD will work his way back up to his feet. I think that BSD will nonstop be pressing the action against Dariush, and I think with the evolution and the growth that we keep seeing and BSD striking and how unorthodox he is, right? Both of these fighters are southpaws. BSD has this unorthodox type of striking, but he lands. It's underrated, his striking, and I think that he could hurt Dariush here. And at the very least, I think that this fight will play out to be a war, and the warrior BSD is going to be the fighter that just edges those rounds with his tenacity. And I'm not going to pick against him. Now, you could sit here, you could kind of analyze this fight, and you could definitely say, you know, the value's on the underdog. And before I just jumped into some tape of some recent bouts, I was kind of like, you know, initially looking at this fight like, oh, the value's all over Dariush. He's the dog. And I was almost thinking maybe, is this a potential dog pick? But no, this is BSD, man. He's 29 years old. He's young. He's got his rhythm back. He's got his groove back. BSD got his groove back. I know you guys seen that movie back in the day. And this is a good spot for BSD to potentially get that finish, but he could still win a decision here. This fight's going to be ugly. It's not going to be one of Dariush's vintage matches where he could use his grappling to control and his high-level jiu-jitsu, and he's blasting that left body kick from the outside. This fight's it's a little different. BSD's out of that southpaw stance too, and it's going to be chaotic, and he's not going to be able to just control him. Now, Dariush has been in some firefights before, and he prevailed against Drakkar Klose, but he's also been in some wild fights where it's cost him. And I'll just say this real quick, and then we'll jump into the next fight. But if you look at like the fight that he had, how about this one against, Alexander Hernandez cracked him in the first round. But if you guys remember, a really wild fight was the Ramsey Ninjum fight, which Ramsey fought on The Ultimate Fighter, and that was a crazy one that took place over in Europe, I want to say, and Ramsey versus Dariush. That was Dariush's only his second UFC fight, and that was one where they just ran out. There was a high pace to it, and Ramsey caught him and knocked him out in the first round. We've seen him hurt early on in fights before. We've seen him submitted too against Chiesa. I know these fights were way back in the day, but the Hernandez one, how could you forget? I say BSD finds the finish in round 2 via TKO. Carlos, the Nightmare Pratis, looks to put the Fighting Nerds back on the map. He's taking on the former champion Leon Edwards. And this fight stylistically is so exciting because Edwards has lost both of his last 2 bouts, but you take a look at those matchups stylistically, it was the grappling that made him pretty much inadequate in there. Pratis, we know he loves to entertain a striking affair. That's what he does best. He has that one-touch knockout power. How about the bounce-back performance he just had against Jeff Neal as he hit him with that spinning back elbow as he came into that fight off of his first UFC loss where he lost to Ian Gary, and that fight was an all-time classic. I mean, the heart that he showed in the 5th round, I thought that he showed so much in that fight, the way that his takedown defense kind of got better almost as the fight went on. So if Edwards doesn't like what's going on the feet and looks to change levels, which he has shown development with his wrestling. I mean, he has shown that he has sharpened up his overall game. We've seen him get takedowns in the octagon as of recently. I believe it was against Colby, right? He was showcasing some wrestling abilities there. If he looks to go that path, if he doesn't like what Pratis is doing to him with the pressure that's going to be coming his way, I don't think he's going to have success there. I think that Pratis' takedown defense is going to look better than ever. The growth that he got from that Gary fight, and then since then he's just had more time to crunch in the gym, and he knows what he needs to do. He needs to stuff takedowns, create space when he's in the octagon so he could set up his knockouts, because that's what he's just phenomenal at. You take a look, out of his 22 victories, 14 come by way of KO. We got 5 undocumented. Those are all knockouts, 100%. But he is a phenomenal finisher. I mean, the one-touch power that he has, we've seen it on full display, dating back to when he defeated Mitch Ramirez, which I know that wasn't necessarily just like a one-shot shutoff, but he was outclassing Mitch from the very beginning. And Mitch is a friend of the show, man. Big shout out to Mitch. He's a great guy, but Mitch was outclassed in that fight and he broke him down. But then from there, he's clean clocking these dudes. Charles Racky, Trevin Giles, The Leech, Neil Magny. And then we just talked about what he did in his last 2 fights. Pratis is the real deal. I think he gets the better of the striking between Edwards here. Now, you don't want to completely overlook Edwards because we do know that he is dynamic with his striking and he could for sure finish you. He can knock you out. I mean, we saw what his brother just did recently. We don't forget what he did to Usman. And if Pratis gets extremely overzealous in this match, it's not out of the realm that he can get hurt. Okay, it's just not. If you remember the Trevin fight, he got touched up a little bit early on. I hope he doesn't just throw caution to the wind and just pressure too much that he runs into a counter because this is his fight. I do question the motivation of Leon right now. He's up there in age, which Leon is now, he's 34 years old. He has a good amount of pro fights already under his belt. He's been the champion and all that. I think that Pratis is the hungrier fighter and he's the side that you want to be on here. I'm not really looking at this fight, which love it or hate it, man. I'm just shooting it straight to you guys. I'm giving it to you guys how I see it. I'm not looking at this fight as a value on the underdog type of spot in the former champ. I'm just not. I think that Pratis is hitting on a different level right now. Everything is starting to flow, and he's just too dangerous. He's huge, and Edwards doesn't like to be pressured. He doesn't really do well when he's pressured, and the fight is completely brought to him. So take a look at some numbers here. Take them for what you will, but I like Pratis to get the job done. And Edwards has never been knocked out. Okay. If you look at his resume, you'll see 1 loss via TKO. That was due to him landing an illegal knee. I believe it was an illegal strike in like his 3rd pro fight. Okay. So he's shown to be very durable, but when this fight's taking place, man, it's the middle of the main card of this huge event. The energy is going to be crazy. Pratis is going to be nonstop looking for his finish. And I just don't think that Edwards is going to be able to avoid it because the way this fight's going to shape out, there's going to be too much time for exchanges taking place. And I think that we see the aging Edwards get knocked out for the first time. And every dog has his day. Good luck going through a lengthy UFC career and never getting KO'd. Now you have this young, dangerous phenom, 32, but cruising into his prime. He's a younger UFC fighter. I say Pratis gets, I'm going to call another 2nd round knockout. We're gonna get some of them right, man. We've been calling a lot of 2nd round KOs, and I think we're gonna hit some of those. So give me Pratis. And as far as value on the betting line, which we saw him open up as a -184, he's up around a low -200 right now, 208 or whatnot. I have Pratis I have him capped as like a -190, -185. That's where I have it capped. So give me Pratis to get this job done inside the distance. Hey, what's up, guys? Just want to quickly say thank you, as always, for tuning in and cruising with me through this show. Make sure you didn't forget to smash that like and subscribe buttons and go follow me on my social media because I will be very active on Instagram and X leading up to this event. So make sure you guys are locked in with me. That takes us to the co-main event. Valentina Shevchenko, the current UFC flyweight champion, one of the GOATs of women's mixed martial arts, takes on one of the GOATs of women's mixed martial arts, the greatest UFC strawweight fighter of all time, Weili Zhang. This one's going to hurt. And for those of you guys that know me, you guys probably know which way I'm going with this, but this one's going to hurt. Valentina Shevchenko, she's my old lady, man. I've been backing her for the longest. I used to sit here on the mic arguing about how she was the pound for pound and the greatest women's mixed martial artist of all time back in the day, as I had her winning in one of those bouts against Amanda Nunes back in the day. I thought that she kind of got stiffed on the decision, on the one that went to a split decision, and really both of them were extremely competitive. And those fights took place early on in her UFC career, and besides those losses, she just continued to go out there and looked flawless. She looked phenomenal. I mean, she was doing things that we really haven't seen, the domination that she has shown, some of the more nastier knockouts that we've seen in women's mixed martial arts. If you guys remember what she did to Jessica Ai, she hit her with that head kick. Kind of looked like she brought in a baseball bat to the cage and whacked her upside the head with it. The finish over Caitlin Chikogian back then with the ground and pound, the domination that she did. I mean, the one that was really brutal was what she did to Priscilla Cachoeira, which was a lower level fighter, but the domination she imposed on her. I mean, the way that she was moving in there, it was just so different. And I had her as the head honcho. But if I'm being realistic, going into the Talia Santos fight, that's where, or not going into it, after that fight, seeing her performance there, that's where she kind of lost a little bit of her zest. And it was kind of surprising because she was still towards the prime of her career. I think she was about 34, 35 around that time. And Santos is a high level fighter, but she wasn't going in there and dominating the way that she typically did. Then she loses to Alexa Grasso. She makes a mistake and she gets caught in a rear naked choke. That's a fight that I think that she's en route to winning. It was close, but I think that she would have got the nod if she would have played that fight correctly and made a couple different moves. I think we all thought that she clearly defeated Grasso in the next bout, which went to a draw, another dirty decision there. And then she gets redemption in the trilogy against Grasso and then looks phenomenal in her last fight. So that's something to note as well. She looked phenomenal in her last fight against Montefiore, who just also looked phenomenal. She's a very dangerous fighter. And Valentina went back to her calculated and really flawless type of fighting style, where she's just clearly ahead. I thought that she was in complete control of that fight. I know it was only 3-2. I think one judge had it 4-1, but she was in control of that bout. That's what I'll say. And to do that against a high level fighter like that, I still think it's impressive. Maybe I'm exaggerating the performance a little bit, but Shevchenko is coming into this fight hot, but Weili Zhang is arguably coming in even hotter. Okay, what she just did to Tatiana Suarez, which Suarez is a much more one-dimensional fighter, but the way that she dealt with the wrestling, it's very important because Shevchenko is high level there. And as Shevchenko comes in with a little bit of a size advantage, I still don't know and I still don't believe that Shevchenko is going to be able to just hold Zhang down. I know there's been some performances where we've seen that happen to her, like when she fought Rose Namajunas, which Rose has underrated wrestling and grappling. But I understand the thought process. If Rose was able to do that, Shevchenko can do it even better. I understand that thought process, but what I'm seeing is Zhang just get better and better. And now she doesn't have to cut any weight. I'm interested to see how that all works out, but I think it makes her even a better fighter. I think that she's just extremely disciplined. It's just taken her game to another level. And it's interesting too, because Shevchenko is as disciplined as it gets as well. But Zhang is just so damn good. And I'm going to go with my gut here. I'm a huge Shevchenko fan. She's probably my favorite women's mixed martial artist of all time. Okay, so this is saying a lot. I'm going to pick against her here. I'm going to say that Zhang wins this fight. I got to go with my gut. I think that Zhang rises to the occasion here, and I think that she wins a decision. I think that she takes this fight 3-2, maybe even 4-1. We'll see. I think that Shevchenko will take a round, maybe 2, but I think that Weili is going to get the job done here via decision. The striking exchanges will be interesting. Shevchenko is going to have a little bit of a size advantage, as to be expected, with her being the more natural flyweight fighter. She's going to have a couple of inches on a reach advantage. She's about an inch taller. She is, she has a body to bring into the cage, but Zhang has her own type of body. But I'm going to go with Weili to get the job done here. And you guys know what we're looking at. This fight is essentially at pick 'em odds. So this is pick your poison here. And I got to go with my gut, guys. I just got to go with my gut. I think that Weili gets the job done. And she becomes one of the very few fighters to hold gold in multiple weight classes inside the octagon. And we're going to be talking about another fighter here in a second that potentially could add his name to that list. Now, if you're reading the captions in the video, those were Conor McGregor's words that he sent through Craig Jones to JDM as he enters this massive main event between him and Islam Makhachev. JDM looks to defend the welterweight champion for the first time, and he has one of the greatest fighters of all time, a fighter that a lot of people have being the pound-for-pound best in Islam Makhachev, the former lightweight champion. Makhachev now looks to become one of the rare fighters to hold gold in 2 weight classes, and I'm excited to see how this plays out. A lot of you guys know that I wanted to see Topuria versus Makhachev, and it was a little sketchy how Makhachev just left the division once Topuria came up, and you just cannot overlook Topuria's fighting abilities. I mean, that dude is so nasty and well-rounded, and it's not really out of the realm that Makhachev was trying to avoid him. I'm sorry. I mean, I'm going to say it. I still will give him respect here for going up in weight, and I don't want to overlook the task that JDM is, because JDM is a much larger fighter. But stylistically, I think that Islam will be able to do what he wants to do here, more so against JDM than Topuria. I mean, Topuria is small, he's compact, and I think that he is a better overall grappler. And if you remember how Islam's fight against Volkanovski played out, the first one, it was extremely competitive. And Volkanovski is a much smaller fighter than JDM. And hopefully with time, we get to see if I was right about that or not. But the point that I'm making is Topuria was the tougher matchup. And although JDM is the bigger fighter, I think that Makhachev is going to be able to have his opportunity here to implement what he wants to do, because JDM, his takedown defense isn't the best. I mean, you think about some of his more recent performances. He looked good against Belal Muhammad, and I will say that the takedown defense looked better than ever, but it's not like we haven't seen him taken down. You think about the Basil Hafez fight. Okay, that was a fight where he was taken down against a lower level fighter, right? He gets very aggressive, he makes mistakes, and he gets put in these compromised positions where he gets taken down. Now, his get-up game, it's really high level. The way that he bursts to his feet, the way that he'll roll out and hunt for subs, I mean, it's very high level. He's not necessarily easy to hold down there. But when you're talking about a fighter like Islam Makhachev, once he gets you down there, first off, he'll be live to choke you out right off the rip. But as this fight progresses, if JDM really struggles with the takedown defense, or if he's consistently put on his back and he's working so hard to get back up, it's not out of the realm that Makhachev can get a late submission in this fight. Now, if JDM defends those takedowns and things are really working good for him, that will start to gas out Makhachev. If Makhachev can't get those takedowns and he's struggling there, without a doubt, that's going to help JDM, and JDM is going to be extremely dangerous on the feet from the moment the bell rings to late in this fight. Anytime this fight is at distance, at range, JDM will be live to land a KO. We've seen Makhachev finished before. In fact, the only time we've seen him take an L as a professional fighter was, of course, the Adriano Martins fight. That the fight he got knocked out in the first round was only his second UFC bout. You guys, I'm sure, are familiar with that bout. Even you newer fans, I'm sure you've seen it on YouTube. You've seen the highlight. I was at the party doing my thing. I remember looking over, seeing him get KO'd. And even back then, people were kind of catching wind about what he brought to the table. I remember being a little surprised to see that play out like that, especially as Martins was a jiu-jitsu guy. Okay, but I'm sure you guys all pulled that up on YouTube and you see Khabib all sad and whatnot. But ever since that loss, I mean, you got to give credit to what Makhachev has been doing. This dude is a phenomenal fighter. And I want to say this too, as we slide back over to JDM's resume. Okay, yeah, when he lands the knockout, when things go his way, it's so fun to watch. I truly believe his striking is some of the best in the entire sport right now. But this is kind of what I wanted to say earlier. I mean, I mentioned the Hafez fight that played out very closely. That was a nail-biter. The Kevin Holland bout, which you guys know how I feel about Holland. I think that he is vastly overrated. He went to a split decision with Holland. Okay, the Gilbert Burns fight, he gets the knockout with just 1:15 left in that fight. If he doesn't get that KO, he loses that fight. Okay, Gilbert Burns, he's had his days, but he is a fighter that you really shouldn't be taking an L to if you want to go out here and you want to defeat Islam Makhachev. Okay, Burns is not hitting on all cylinders. There's a lot of L's going on, and but one reason why I think JDM stock is really high was the Belal fight, because it was impressive. But you do have to note, there was some interesting tactics in that fight by Belal, as Belal chose to have an extremely slow start to it. Essentially, he gave up the first round. I don't know why he wasn't pressuring from the rip. I think that the only way he was going to win that fight was by pressuring from the moment that bell rung, and he was going to have to prove that better cardio and better grappling, and would have had to have broken down JDM, which we started to see Belal have some success late in that fight with takedowns. He had a couple in the fifth round, but even then, you got to give credit to JDM, because he got back up to his feet after every single takedown and then started to rain down damage with his elite boxing. So this is a great fight. So I know maybe I'm just kind of talking here like, oh, this is a lock for Islam Makhachev, but no, I mean, JDM brings a lot to the table, but I feel much more comfortable backing Makhachev here, and I do like him to win this fight. But if JDM here, who's been putting in a lot of work with his grappling training with Craig Jones and all that, if he has success defending that aspect of this fight, he is the better striker. I think he is the better striker. He's more likely to land a KO. He is more likely to outpoint Makhachev in the stand-up. But Can he keep it there? I don't think he could. I don't. And we take a look at the line movement here, which we have the former lightweight champion opening up right around a -225. A lot of up and down type of action, some bipolar action here, where now he is right around a -255. And I would still side with backing Makhachev here. I would back him even at a -255 line. I think that you could reach on him all the way up to like a -280, 290 betting favorite. I think that he's the side you have to back. And I know a lot of people are interested in backing JDM here. They feel a little something going on, but I'm here to tell you that I'm not buying into it in this matchup. I think Makhachev shuts him down and he gets a possibly a late submission, a 4th or 5th round submission. If not, he dominates with the grappling late throughout this fight. All right, guys, that's going to wrap this one up. Take a look at this juicy fight card we got here, man. Oh, I'm excited for the night. And I got to leave you guys with some parting words. Something that just came to mind. All right, we had the time change here. It's starting to get dark early. This is that type of year where, you know, if you don't have your ducks in a row, if you're not on point and you're not taking care of yourself, you may feel a little bit of those like those Sunday scaries. You might feel those on a Thursday. You might feel them on a Friday. You might get some Friday scaries, you know, as it's getting dark around 4 p.m. This is all you got to do, man. You take care of yourself, treat yourself well, eat right, take care of yourself, treat yourself, you know, to a little something. Go spend a little bit of money on some clothes or something like that, and budget yourself too, right? So if you're saying, oh, I don't got money to do that, assess what you're doing. If you're dropping money on alcohol and cigarettes every single day, right? The cigarettes every day, you're wasting money on stupid stuff. You got to set your priorities straight. There's always something you can cut down on to have a little spare change, right? People make excuses and they say that they can't, and they're always looking for stuff, but adjust what you got going on. And there's ways to get some nice things anyway. I'm not saying steal them. I'm saying, you know, there's, even if you got to get something that's a little bit more affordable, but what the point I'm getting to is take care of yourself. Get some accessories, get some new clothes for the winter. Look good, feel good about yourself, and go enjoy your life, man. Go enjoy yourself while you're out here. While we're out here, man, you enjoy yourself. Don't get caught up in that nonsense. And I hope you guys have a great week. I hope you guys have a great weekend. And remember, you're the man. Let's go. Signing out. Teller.